everything in painting is about this one thing. Truman Hosner, what is the one thing that this is all about, and how are you going to show us today?
Well, it's all about value. If you're going to paint natural light, you have to understand value and paint it accurately. So a white on a sunny day of a shirt or a white house is 10, and on a gray day it's 9. It drops down for morning and evening, and in a nocturne, a white house would be all the way down to a middle gray. And that sets the tones for the 4 basic scenarios in painting natural light.
Okay, so you're going to demonstrate this today and help us understand our values and how to make things read like light. I put a value scale up on the screen. Mine goes 1 to 9, yours goes 1 to 10, but it's a very similar concept for people who don't understand what a value is. Okay, so I'll tell you what, we'll get this show officially started and we'll be right back to you.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhoads. Now, here's your host, Eric Rhoads.
Welcome to Art School Live. I'm Eric, and we are here every weekday at 12 noon to try to teach you how to paint or how to get better at painting. And it's amazing to me. I've done this show now, I don't know how many thousands of times over the course of over 5 years and over 18 million viewers. And every single day, I learn something new about painting. Now, if you watch this program, any 5 of our episodes about painting, you will get the confidence that you too can learn how to paint. Even though you might be telling yourself, I don't have the talent, I don't have what it takes, you can do this. And today is a very essential, very important session for you because we're talking about values, which are darks to lights. And sometimes if you don't get your value, always, if you don't get your values right, nothing else really works. As a matter of fact, just learning how to do a black and white painting doesn't sound very exciting, but it actually is a really great discipline. We're going to learn a little bit about that today. Our guest today is Truman Hosner, and Truman's going to teach you about this. So let me show you some of his work, though, so you can just see what we're getting ourselves into. What an incredible painter he is. He lives outside of Detroit, but he also lives in California. And these paintings, you know, if you look at them, they're really, really great, but the values are spot on. I mean, he's really got that down. And so we're going to have a chance to learn painting from him today. Truman, are you ready for us?
I am.
Okay, take it away.
Is the camera set? Okay. So early on when I was painting outdoors from life, I began to understand that all of my paintings seemed pretty close in value. All my skies, didn't matter what time of day I was painting. So through studies of a friend, Max Altekruse, who studied at the Art Students League under Frank Reilly, and John Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting, I was able to set some guidelines for myself and to better understand how Monet could have painted the same haystack 4 times in one day and had 4 different paintings. And one of the keys that I found and was taught by Max through Reilly was that white is the key. If a gentleman is, or a person is wearing a white shirt, or you have a white house, on a sunny day, that white by nature has to be all the way up at 10, which is pure white. And that only by logic, Eric, drops down on a cloudy day. It cannot be a pure white. If you put pure white into a cloudy day painting, you're not telling the truth of natural light. It drops down further in morning and evening, and then in a nocturne, a white house or a person with a white shirt would be all the way down to a 5 or a middle gray. So I created these 4 scenarios for myself. The 5th one is actually a nocturne with no light. But and I began to assign values according to what John Carlson talked about in his guide to landscape painting, which was there are 4 basic planes: the sky, the slanted hill, the vertical, and the flat plane. And that began to show me a way to begin to really capture natural light. I joke with my students about at Christmas, I always get a Christmas card, at least one, that has a white church at night in the snow. And the white of the church and the white of the card are the paper. And it has a dark blue sky. Psychologically, we say, okay, it's a white church at night, but that's not natural light. Natural light would be this scenario here, where the white would be a middle gray. So what I'm going to demonstrate today is actually how I get down quickly for a nocturne. I have a white church. Actually, my son was married there, and I tweaked it in Photoshop to make the sky dark. The photo reference itself, the church is a little bit light, so I'm going to paint it correctly, and that's what I'm going to demonstrate today. So would you like me to turn the camera around?
Okay.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay, so here's my scenario. And you see, here's the reference, photo reference. And I've sketched it up like this. Now, one of the problems that I had early on trying to do a nocturne or set a dark gray for white was I love to work off of white. All of my paintings all begin on white, except my nocturnes, which I have to lay back a little bit further so I can get there quicker. So the white is a pure white. So that gives me something to measure things about. Once I start to set my whites, then all of the other values can come along in proper unison to that white. So here I've just laid in a quick sketch, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to put in some color that I'm going to make sure I don't clog the paper too much, and I'm going to use acetone, and that quickly sets that color into the sanded panel, and that allows me to paint back and forth, in other words, darker or lighter, and create shapes. And also, particularly with a nocturne, there's a lot of soft edges at night, so it just softens everything up. So I'll just begin to work on the painting and do it in that fashion. And so I'll just, I try not to get too exact at this point, because this is just going to be some overall general shapes. And here I'm going to use variants in color. I'm going to just mass in these shapes and make sure I don't clog the paper too much. So when I use the acetone, it sinks in. Otherwise, if you get too much pastel on there, Eric, it tends to get, it'll get muddy, and I don't want that. And this is about a neutral gray here for the house. And this is one of the things that helped me early on. I would always paint too light in these areas for a nocturne. But the key is the white. If I'm painting a blouse, a white blouse on an overcast day, I know that nothing in that white blouse can be pure white. So I'm just going to lay these shapes in. I can relax and have fun with this. It's not life and death at this point. Accuracy in the drawing will come when I get there. When I've toned the paper down and I'm ready to go in and draw the shapes and make the values absolutely as correct as I possibly can. So we're just going to drop this gray in here. I think I'll add some interest to that gray with a little bit of aqua. We have that idea of impressionism where colors are more vibrant when they're laid against competing colors rather than colors that are similar. And let's see here, let's get this big dark shape here in. Okay, be careful not to get too much of that onto the surface there, because it'll, again, when I go to brush it in, it will begin to clog the paper, and I don't want to do that. So following Carlson, these trees are the vertical. And so they're going to be the among the darkest. Just enjoy this process and not get over committed to anything at this point, because it's going to really melt it out. I'm going to drop this down a little bit, this gray. Okay, now the next thing I'll slip in is the, that's, whoops. There we go. Nice dark value. We're going to marry that up in there. Yes, being patient now. So this white church now is in that scope of a middle gray. That's why I say white is the key to painting natural light. Bring this down a little bit. I think I'll darken that. That can stay. I'd like to add a little interest to that sky. That's too light. That's better. And I say interest, Eric, it is, for me, that means color. Color vibration, always trying to vibrate color. Okay, now let's get down here. Like that to be a little darker. There we go. You know, when I studied with Harley Brown, he taught me a very valuable lesson. He said, you know, you can put about any color anywhere as long as it's the right value. And particularly for we pastelists, you know, an oil painter, as an oil painter, you can mix up thousands, if not tens of thousands of variations of color. But in pastel, you have to build the color and then right up on the paper. I'm going to put this down here now. There we go. That's good. Trying to keep some movement in here. Okay. Now that's good. So just take a minute. I'll get the pastel off my hands. And now I just take a little bit of acetone. The reason I use acetone is it dries immediately. I'm impatient as a painter. I want to really get into the painting. Water, I'd have to wait or use a hand dryer. And when you're working outdoors, it's not convenient to take a hand dryer with you. So plenty of paper towel, a nice brush. This has to be a natural hair brush because otherwise the acetone will eat it away. And now I just kind of just gently go in there and set that in. It's going to bring it down a little bit in value. I'm dipping the brush in the acetone and cleaning it back out, much like a watercolorist would. And I start with the lights first and get those set in. There's a little bit more pastel I'd like in there, so we'll just do that. Okay. As you can see that, you know, this is just really a point where you don't want to get too over-concerned with drawing. It's mostly setting in those four big shapes that John Carlson talked about. This is actually something I brought with me from when I was an illustrator. And I had a little more of this blue here, so it's more potent. We used to use opposing medias, and we would set the paper, stain it, either with watercolor or Luma dyes, and then paint back and forth from there. And I'll just do this here quickly. Just a little bit more acetone to clean my brush. I want to get those light holes out of there if I can. And let's just get this coming. These are the shadows from the trees coming across the snow. Okay. All right. Now that's that for toning. And that's set in pretty good in the sanded surface. You see, it doesn't move around. And that gives me something to work out of now. So I'll just make sure you have your acetone cap. Now, normally I'm doing this outside, so I don't worry about you know, the fumes from the acetone, and the little bit I use today isn't a problem. But you'd have to be awfully careful if you're going to use it indoors. Make sure you have a well-ventilated room. So now I'll just get that out of the way. And now the real fun begins. So I might decide a good thing to do would be to grab, you know, a sharp edge. There's one cast on the side of the entrance to the church on the building. Let's see, is that the right way? Let's try this one. So I think what I'll do is I'll put that in. And now I'm going to knock that back a little. See, that helps me create mystery down in the shadow areas. Don't want to make them completely solid. You want to feel like you can walk in there. And now I'm going to grab that sharp edge. If I have to, I'll use something to make it even a little sharper. Let's see here. Okay. And now let's just scumble this on top of this existing. This is really a lot of fun. You're just going to bring this beautiful little church up out of this big mass of color. In a way, you're going to discover it. I'm going to come back. We'll just let that kind of disappear up in there. And I'll use a little bit of this. It's a very kind of sculptural way of painting for me.
Truman, Eric is experiencing some technical difficulties, so he had to drop out for a second.
Okay.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to read a couple of questions that we got from our viewers.
Okay.
We have Carl S. that asked, what happens to the middle gray value of the white church in natural light in this nocturne if a street light turns on during your plein air session?
Well, a lot happens because that's not natural light, that's man-made light. So generally, should I keep working while I'm doing this?
Yes, I mean, it's up to you. It's if
Yeah,
you both,
I can do that. I can answer the question while I keep working. So I would generally make sure through observation of a scene over a period of evenings before I chose to paint it, that wasn't going to happen, that the lights weren't going to come on. Or I might purposely choose this scene because the church was lit up at night, and then that middle gray value no longer is a 5. It is changed by the natural or the artificial light. I'm going to warm up this steeple here. There, that helps. So if it came on in the middle of doing something, I would have to hope that it would stay on, and then I would change the painting. And in fact, if you'd like, in a little bit, I can do that and show that. This also is a way for me to have some control over edges here, because I can use a dry brush. See, I can make this edge just a little softer than this sharp edge up here. Were there other questions? Okay, that's got to be darker.
Eric, we can't hear you. I'll let you fix this. Yes, we do have another question from Jim that was asking, how toxic is the acetone and do you use ventilation?
Okay, so the answer first to the toxicity of the acetone. I have talked to a friend who's a chemist, and he said if you're going to be using it outdoors, you don't really have anything to worry about, and the little bit that acetone actually completely dissipates into the atmosphere. It doesn't leave any residue or anything. So indoors, and I don't use it indoors, I don't paint indoors very much, but if I were to use it indoors, I would absolutely want to ensure that I had some good ventilation. If you remember how little I used it, you really don't get that much into the atmosphere. And I kind of slow down when I paint. Now you can begin to see here where this is starting to become very sculptural, very painterly, and I can take advantage of this some of that toned paper back there. I can lay it back. Here, I don't know how well this comes across, but I'm using a warm dark and a cool dark.
So we're getting a lot of questions about acetone. So Kathleen is asking, does the acetone actually melt the pastels or does it simply liquefy them?
I think it does a little bit of both, actually. It mostly liquefies them. The big thing is it sets it into the paper. If you can see, excuse me, take a little drink of water here. If you can see, here, I'm going to take an eraser. If I hadn't set that in, see, this doesn't come out. See, that's set in the paper. So it definitely is, you might call it a melting in, but it's really just kind of, the acetone was a way of being able to work fast, you know, particularly if you're going to, even at night, if you're working on a painting, in the middle of the night, the light is changing. you know, even a moonlit night.
Truman, can you tell us what you're painting on, the surface that you're painting on?
Absolutely. It is a sanded paper that's mounted archivally onto a gatorboard panel that has an archival adhesive. Now, see, I put a little too strong of the pastel there, and I'm just going to knock it back with a brush. I don't want that quite that dark there. So I'm using the tooth to establish edges and to give me a dry brush look. I'm going to move this along a little bit quickly now so that I make sure, because I know we only have a limited time frame here.
Yes, you have about 20 to 25 minutes left.
Okay, good. Thank you for allowing me, giving me that knowledge. That helps. So I'll try and block it in. See how this top of this roof is just, oh, it's just so exciting to me to see this come out. You know, just come to life. Oh boy, look at that. Isn't that great? I mean, not that I'm complimenting myself, but it's just exciting for me as a painter to work in a sculptural way rather than a drawing. You know, I was an illustrator for years, and we primarily drew things, and then we colored them in. When I moved to fine art painting and painting from life, I put something down the wrong way there. Was when I began to realize that painting itself was more of a sculptural process. And it became very exciting for me to just create things and have them start to appear like out of the fog of a painting of color. Okay, now let's see here. And now we just have this little bit here. Okay, I'm going to just move a little quicker so I can get more of an impression before we stop for today, because I understand that this is a different scenario than if I was out there making this painting for myself. This is
different how? Different how?
Well, in order to move it, that's a great question, and thank you for asking that. In order to make a demonstration in 45 minutes, I have to do a more global approach, Eric. I often will, for example, if I was working for myself, I would finish this to my satisfaction and let it go and move on. I would, so that is what allows me to not chase light. Is I'm able to, this is great. I'm going to just use that color and see how that just begins to come out to us now. Okay. So I'm going to, again, to answer your question, I work more globally here because of the time limit, so that I can give the audience an impression of where I could go with this thing you know, if I were to be painting it for a gallery as opposed to painting it for an audience and a demonstration. I'm going to just grab this window here. I'm going to just, and I think I'll keep that a little bit lighter so it's than the photo reference indicates. So I just want to move this painting along now. Yeah. I like these hard edge pastels for creating blocking shapes. This allows me, that tone color back there allows me a lot of latitude to use it to my advantage in terms of rendering. There's a little bit of a stairway there. And this side of the church is catching some shadows. There's a set of 𝗪𝗶𝗵𝗵𝘁 purple grays that I just love, that I've come to use in painting outdoors, and I'm using some of those right now. And I think I just stuck my foot in my mouth because I was told not to mention brands, but it doesn't matter what brand. I always say to myself, you know, there's only 88 keys on a piano, and look at all the great music that's been written. And I don't need to, it's not the number of pastels I have or the colors, it's what I do with what I have. And I just fix this a little angle a little here. I see I got this off. This goes there. Now, here's the back part of the church. And here's where the beauty of toning it first. Now, you see how far down this gray is? And yet it looks white in the night. If I used, you know, a piece of white paper, you can see how far down it is.
Wow.
It's amazing. That's an important thing to know.
Hey, Carl is asking in a nocturne, do you have to fight shadow movements cast by full moons like you do for sunlight?
You do. Absolutely. So the trick to that for me has been to put in the shadow shapes as quickly as possible so that they are all headed in the right direction. And then, like Eric, like clouds that float by, because I know you're a painter and you paint plein air very well, and you don't take a photographic image of the clouds and then try and copy that for the next 20 minutes. You get down the basic movement you want, and then from there, you use the new passing clouds to establish an existing scenario. So it's the beauty of plein air painting is that, or painting from life, is that you get to work over a 3.5 hour period and incorporate change during the whole 3 hours. You're not like taking a picture and then going back to the studio, and I'm not picking on people who paint from photos, by the way, because I think, you know, we artists wanted, for centuries, we wanted something like a camera that would help us. Now, here's a good thing. I can knock that color back out. In fact, you know, you can even take a kneaded eraser and pull it back out a little bit. See, that's why I have that stain back there, and that color is still there. So, yeah, you just have to, on a moonlit night, and in fact, even on a complete nocturne night, the light does change. I've noticed it over 3 hours. There was a painting I did of a young woman hanging laundry on her mother's line. There, that's the gray I want. Good. Okay. I'm going to sharpen this up a little bit. And it was a late summer afternoon, Eric, and at a certain point, the sun had come down far enough, and she cast her shadow onto the laundry sheet that's on the line behind her, and immediately put that in. And, you know, for years I was so proud of the figure, but everybody loved the shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because had I taken a photo and gone back, I would have missed that.
It's never the same.
Yeah.
You know, and the photo would have darkened the shadow.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent a lot of years in Detroit advertising studios, working late nights and in dark studios and working half the night. And when I discovered open air painting, my life just became alive. Everything changed. I just began to feel the thrill I had when I was a child about being a painter or being an artist. And, you know, it was just amazing to me how I'm just going to try and keep this. It's a very soft cast shadow there compared to the sharpness there. Let me see on that. There's where you just.
Hey, Truman.
Yes.
I think we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be right back. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Hey, you guys, I'm sorry I haven't been around much today. My technology has been glitching out on me. So if I start getting erratic, you'll know what's going on. Just want to tell you, you've got a webinar today. It's right after this broadcast, very close after. And it's called Discover Why Gouache is the Medium Artists Are Turning to in 2025. It's with guest artist 𝗪𝗶𝗵𝗁 from Blick, and it's hosted by 𝗪𝗶𝗵𝗵. And it's going to be great. You want to do it today at 2 p.m. Eastern. So not much long after we end, about an hour after we end. Just go to gouachelive.com/web to attend that. And then, of course, what we would love for you guys to do is to attend Gouache Live, which is coming up August 23rd. Gouache Live, I was just talking to Scott Christensen yesterday. He's such a bright guy, so introspective and lots of great concepts. He was telling me some concepts on shadows that I didn't understand, shadows on rocks that I didn't understand till yesterday. He's going to be teaching on Gouache Live. He's using gouache a lot, along with some of these other really terrific instructors, all world class. They're going to be teaching gouache, and it's a one-day event, full day, Saturday, the 23rd of August, and it's only $45 to attend. That's gouachelive.com. All right, let's get back to Truman.
Okay, so are you looking at me now? I think you are.
I am looking at you. Pretty good looking guy.
Thank you. So the idea is the white is the key to everything for me in terms of painting different natural light scenarios. And I'll, in fact, one of your artists that you've had on is Dan Gerhart's, and Dan taught me something about white in terms of a sunny day or a sunny blouse. And he said, leave the white, when you're going up and your white's up that high at 10 or 9, leave the white of the canvas or leave the white of the paper. And then when you put the white in, it's more vibrant, and that's true. And so it just, Eric, it's just helped me solve all kinds of issues where I would pull a painting in from, say, late evening, and I'd look at the value. Now, I'm not talking about color, but the value of the sky, it was equal to a sunny day sky. And I just knew it couldn't be, it was reduced light. And this just helped me begin to understand how Monet, just through observation, was able to paint 4 haystacks in one day and have each painting look like it was a different time of the day. That was important to me. I really wanted to tell the truth of the light I was seeing. And I hope that in my other works that you see, that's one thing you can say that I have a lot of integrity about is the correct light and the drama that it brings. And just slipping back to the gentleman who asked the question about chasing shapes in a moonlit night. Yeah, you have to chase shapes a little bit, but you know, if it was easy, it wouldn't be any fun. You know, so I have a lot of fun. So,
That's true.
yeah,
You know, that's one thing about all this is it's challenging.
yeah,
Very challenging.
yeah, absolutely.
Well,
I can leave you one thought that is from Marianne Evans, better known as George Eliot, but Marianne wrote in one of her books it's never too late to become what you might have been. I always think that my next painting is going to be the very best one I've ever done in my life. And I always paint that way. I love it. And I'm going to keep doing that until whenever, you know, so I think we should all keep that in mind. We can always be what we want to be. Just always say, I can do it. I can do that.
great advice.
Yeah.
Great advice. Well, thank you, Truman Hosner. We really appreciate it. Thumbs up and applause for a really great demo today. I'm sorry I wasn't very present. I'm having some glitchy technology issues, but thank you for doing this today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. It was my honor. And again, I follow in the footsteps of many great artists you've had on your show. So thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. We're glad to have you. Okay, well, Truman Hosner, thank you again. And make sure you check out his website. We'll put all his information in the comments so you guys can get in there and do it. Make sure to subscribe to this program. We're here every weekday at 12 noon. And just go to YouTube, hit Art School Live, and then subscribe. You can get a little bell that will notify you when we go live. And follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything, X, but especially on YouTube. That would be really helpful. All right, guys. Well, thanks for today. Reminder of that webinar today at 2 p.m. You don't want to miss it. Let's pull that up again real quickly so you guys can see it. Just go to gouachelive.com/web. And that's at 2 p.m. today with Vicki McGrath and Blick, and of course, us. So we'll see you there. And thanks again to Truman Hosner for a great demo today. Bye, guys. Thank you.